Broadcasting from the heart of rural America in beautiful St. Joe, Missouri, this is Angus Talk, brought to you by the American Angus Association. I'm Doug Medlock, your host, and joining us today is Scott Brown, the assistant professor at the University of Missouri's Food and Agricultural Policy Research Institute. Scott, thanks for joining us this morning.
You bet, Doug. I'm glad to be on.
So what's going on at the Food and Agriculture Policy Research Institute? What do you guys do there?
Well, much of our time is focused on working with U.S. Congress as they're trying to write farm legislation. So we've been busy looking at the 2012 Farm Bill development and doing research there. As well on the high-quality beef side, certainly staying focused on what kind of value is available for producers in Missouri and around the country associated with producing higher quality beef.
How has the economic recession affected consumer beef demand? What's the demand picture right now?
Well, we certainly have seen some good recovery here as we've come back out of the economic downturn. Prices moving higher, consumers demanding more high-quality beef products. So I think the news has gotten much brighter as we've gone the last several months. So I think when you look at the high-quality side, we're certainly putting a lot better product in front of that consumer, and we're going to continue to have to really compete for that center of plate relative to other meat products as well. So it's a good time to be putting higher quality beef out there.
When do you foresee our business entering herd expansion?
Well, I think at this point, we're easily 2 to 3 years away from talking about serious herd expansion. Of course, weather's going to play a critical role, I think, as we go through 2012. Certainly from a cattle price side, cattle prices are going to remain at or near record highs for the foreseeable future, but getting that herd expansion is going to take time, and given what those heifers may be worth other than going into the herd, that may prolong some recovery as well.
So as the herd numbers are kept down, quality becomes more and more of an issue.
Absolutely. I always say anything you can do to put a better product in front of consumers, whether it's consumers in this country or around the world, is nothing but a win. And I think we have an opportunity to use a lot of tools that are already in place for cattle producers today.
What all should they consider if they're looking to improve their quality focus?
I think, it's the whole gamut of things that are available to producers, whether that's focusing on some of the AI and genomic side that's available, health. It's really the full gamut that I think creates a much better product. We certainly see a lot of research going on at the University of Missouri that shows you can increase quality through the use of better genetics.
And with the corn crops down, the herd sizes are smaller, but the quality comes up, and so there's still economic incentive there for the producer, right?
Absolutely. I mean, when you think about what's going on in the cattle industry today, we have to compete for land that's been headed to corn, given how high corn prices have been. So what can we do on the cattle side to make certain that per acre return keeps some pasture land in production? That I think is an important part of the aspect. And if all of a sudden I can add $150 to $300 an animal through the use of better genetics, I think that's a situation we really need to be taking advantage of in the industry.
So quality is, the incentive is definitely there.
Absolutely. I think when you look at some of the data that's out there on the high quality side, it tells some very interesting stories. When we went through the economic downturn of 2008 and 2009, I think you see a situation where the choice product that we had out there certainly suffered. At the same time, when you look at some of the higher quality that's out there, if we take a certified Angus beef product, high choice prime kind of product, I think CAB over that period of time would have actually seen growth in sales and demand for their product, significant double-digit sales increases during that period of time. So in fact, I think as you look at the high-quality front, we're actually seeing more resilience in a tight consumer income situation. Again, anything we can do on the risk front. Consumers seem willing to still to pay substantial amounts of money for quality and consistency on a regular basis, and some of these high-end products are certainly offering that.
When people know it's good, they don't mind ponying up for it.
Absolutely. We all know that we're going to be willing to pay for something that we know is always good on the quality side.
We're talking with Scott Brown from the University of Missouri on Angus Talk, brought to you by the Angus Foundation. We'll be right back.
It's time to revive rural America. To help our small-town communities move forward, to keep our farms and ranches on a path of prosperity. That's what the Angus Foundation is all about. Each year, we work hard to help kids attend college, providing scholarships to tomorrow's leaders. We invest in research that's critical to our livelihood. And we create educational opportunities for America's cattle producers, ensuring their continued professional development. Won't you help us? Contact the Angus Foundation today.
And we're on Angus Talk with Scott Brown from the University of Missouri. Scott, let's talk about the future of the business. What's the sense for long-term consumer demands? Do we see demand for high-quality beef ever going down?
I think right now you're going to continue to see consumers demanding more of the high-quality product. So no, I don't see any real slowdown in that demand for quality. I think we're going to continue to refine the quality, increase the quality demands by consumers in this country and around the world as we look ahead. Beef has to really make certain that it's found its place in that center of consumer plate to take advantage of the limited dollars that consumers may have. So I think there's some important aspects there of the competition relative to other meats is very important. Positioning yourself for that by focusing on the high quality side, I think could be helpful.
And we got to take what little money we got, be as profitable as we can. Factors like corn and oil prices, those will obviously continue to be volatile trends.
Absolutely. When you look at where we've been in agriculture over the last really decade, the ups and downs get much higher, much lower. Focusing on things that help you from, and I sometimes talk about it from an insurance perspective. What can I do as a producer, to make certain that I limit that exposure to the volatility? And I think there is something to be said for pursuing the high quality side and what it does to your volatility in terms of returns.
So let's talk a little bit about breeding. In the past, it's always been crossbreed as much as you can, as much hybrid vigor going on there. But what's going on at the university in terms of crossbreeding versus straight bred?
Yeah, so we're certainly looking at a lot more Angus influence and less crossbreeding when we look at some of the research that's been happening at the Thompson Farm in northern Missouri. I think one of the easy things I see out of that research going on is that the consistent quality is there. When all of a sudden, year after year after year, I have a situation where 30% of those carcasses, steer carcasses, are grading prime, when the average in this country is 3.5%.
Wow.
So I think we have some real trade-offs between some of the crossbreeding that we've talked about in the past in terms of getting that hybrid vigor versus how can I influence the ultimate product that I have out there that I put on the table. And if all of a sudden I can tell you 30% of those carcasses can grade prime by more of a straight bred process, I think that adds a lot of value that we have to be paying attention to.
And it only makes sense when you pay attention to what you're breeding to what. You're going to get a better product in the end.
Certainly when you look at those genetics across the board and the consistency of those genetics, all of a sudden you talk about a product at the end of the day that's much more consistent, whereas much of the crossbreeding, you don't know exactly what combination of those genetics you're going to get. So I think there's a lot of reasons to be focused on what can we do in terms of influencing that quality outcome.
So, Scott, when it comes time to breed those cows, how can a producer use the database at the American Angus Association and all the genetic history they have stored there?
Right, so there's a great database available for producers to go and look at, make choices in terms of what are they focused on. Are they focused on maybe some mothering aspects of the offspring, or are they more interested in what can I do on the quality side? What can I do in terms of muscling, ribeye area, marbling, tenderness? Much of that information is available to them by looking at that Angus database as they're making choices. So that there is a wealth of data available for them to start to help, really isolate or narrow in on what components of that genetic side are they really focused on. And so the data available is really unrivaled when you look at what's going on in the U.S. cattle industry today.
And it only makes sense, instead of bumping around in the dark, look at what people have done in the past.
Certainly the positive of this is more information helps make better decisions for better outcomes.
Our guest has been Scott Brown from the University of Missouri's Food and Agriculture Policy Research Institute. Thanks for joining us on Angus Talk.
Glad to be on.
Angus Talk is brought to you by the Angus Foundation, promoting education, youth, and research. Donate today by visiting angusfoundation.org. You can also find everything you ever wanted about Angus cattle by visiting angus.org. Sale calendars, sale reports, sale books, you name it. It's all there if you want to buy Angus cattle. I'm Doug Medlock. Thanks for listening to Angus Talk.